I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Love is Blind Lately. I'm your host, Akilah Ffriend, and today we're going to be talking to Mark Cuevas, the main cast member behind Love is Blind Lately, which is a global phenomenon, and we'll be chatting with him about everything that's happened on the show, as well as thereafter. So let's get right into it. Hi, Mark.
What's up? What's up? How you doing, Akilah?
I'm good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Where we'll talk about, again, everything behind your life, what happened in Love is Blind, and, you know, everything that you've been up to since the phenomenon aired, which I can't believe it's only been months since then. It feels like it's been years since Love is Blind. Yeah. Everything that's been happening this year, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, 2020 has been a year that we're probably never going to forget. So definitely,
literally,
it feels it's gone by so fast though. So that I guess that's a good thing. So I mean, since the show came out and everything like that, it's just gone. It's so quick, and now we're here. So
yeah, no, seriously, and I just want to give people a backstory because I know we've each been promoting the fact that we'll be doing this interview, and it's been pushed back a few weeks, and that's really because, you know, as AfterBuzz and specifically as Akilah, as Mark, you know, individual persons, like we've really taken into account everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter, everything that's going on with the world, social injustice, things of that nature, and we thought it wouldn't be right to then talk about, you know, our lives when so many other things are going on. But
totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
I do want to ask though, how have you been? Like, you know, throughout these past weeks?
No, the past couple of weeks have been a bit of an emotional roller coaster. You know, I mean, for myself, you know, with the protests that have happened, I've gone out to protest. I've tried to educate myself, educate other people. So it's been for me just a bit of just like not awakening is the word that pops up right now, but for me it's just like the I feel all of it, like all of us are in this together, you know, and to be able to come together as one country, people like believe in one thing. It's been such a powerful movement the past couple of weeks, and so for me it's been nothing short of like honestly maybe something we needed to happen, you know, for us to come together and you know, educating my friends, family. And so it's just Pascal, aside from, you know, all this craziness and coronavirus happening and, you know, adjusting to that, being stuck at home all the time, you know, I think it's that saying is just like adapt. It's just you just have to adapt, and that's all I've been trying to do is just take it one day at a time and just adapt.
I get that. I feel like that's all we actually can do, and I feel the same way. I feel like this is the moment where I think the pot or the water is finally boiled over. Like folks are finally feeling it, and they're like, no, this time is going to be different, and this is why. So I love that you've been to protests, and I love that you've been, you know, chatting with family about everything. I think that's where it starts.
Well, for me, you know, growing up, both my parents are from Mexico. So for me, I grew up minority, and, you know, not saying that like any comparison or anything, but I know that all of us are in this together. You know what I'm saying? And so we've all dealt with our sense of injustice. And, you know, it's not that I think that my situation is worse or that situation is worse. It's that like we can come together as a unit and just say like, hey, we got this together, because strength in numbers is really how we make that change.
Absolutely. Yes. You know what? This is Mark. This is why to this day I'm like, why did it not work out with you and Jessica? But I see it and I don't, but I'm like this, you know, I really appreciate your sentiments, truly. And so, you know, I want to obviously stick to the task and stick to us chatting about Love is Blind, but I thought that was important to at least mention, and I'm glad you were able to share your insights with that. So,
100%.
you know,
No, thank you.
Yeah. So then let's start from the very beginning. How did you find out about Love is Blind?
Well, actually, they found out about me. I guess I don't know. They slid in my DM. So I never in my entire life thought that I was ever going to be on a reality show. Like my extent to reality TV knowledge was like Jersey Shore back when everybody watched it, you know. And so I never was like, you know what, I want to do that. And even if I was to do that, I was, you know, I've always been the athletic type. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do like some like a challenge or something that like competition. And so when they went into my DMs, they were just like, well, there's this Atlanta singles project, and you know, we want to see if you're not interested, send this over. And I just kept saying like, why not? And then literally 3 months later, I have these interviews and I'm talking on the phone, and then 2 weeks before, I didn't know I was going to be on it until like 2 weeks before we were sent down there. And then they were like, well, we're kind of deciding between you and a couple other people. And then they just sent me down. They sent me the email and they're like, hey, all clear. Just get your outfits together. Let's go.
Wow, I love it. So I guess throughout that whole time, did they ever tell you about the concept of the show? Like, and what was your
They
first
were very,
reaction when you found out about, you're falling in love through a pod?
well, they were very, very upfront in
Mm,
terms of like what the concept was, is that you could possibly marry somebody, and like, are you ready for that? And at the time, I was 24, and so, for me, I've always been like that hopeless romantic, right? Like I've grown up and in a household like my mom has always been like that. I guess that maybe it's the Spanish in me, right? It's like
right.
that's how we are, a romantic type. And so I was like, if I find that at 24, awesome. If not, then I'm like, well, I'm probably gonna experience something. We're probably gonna like go through it together, so it'll be cool regardless. So I went into it just very open minded and very just ready for anything to happen, and no expectation basically, and just wanting to be myself. And so when first day, it was from day one to day none, like I was just being me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I think that's the way to be, especially when you're talking about love and you're forever after. You might as well be upfront from the very beginning. So
Oh, 100%. 100%.
love it.
Yeah, I'd never been on camera before either. So it was just,
Wow.
that was, so the first scene, what was funny is like when I walked in, that was a genuine, like the first words that I said was, oh shit. Like,
Yes.
because I stared at every single camera and I was just like, what? Like, this is like, and you get used to it. And so that was like one of the first things that happened, because like I'd never been on camera before.
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh my God. Well, what did you love most about the overall process?
You know, it was very, very therapeutic in a way
Mhm.
of like not just the fact that I'm asking these questions to someone to try to get to know them to see if we can build an emotional connection, but like I had to dig down deep of like, what do I want in someone?
Mhm.
So like,
Mhm.
like if this is for real, if we're trying to find that special person, it's like I'm asking you these questions not just to ask them like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite
Yeah.
food? No, it's like, what's the biggest thing you learned in a relationship in the past, or what's your biggest fear, and things like that. That like you really get to know that person deep down in those pods. That my favorite thing about the experience was being able to connect not just with Jess, but other people that are like now my brothers and sisters, to
Yeah.
me, that I consider, like Lauren, Cameron, Amber, Barnett, all the Gigi, Dave, like they're like my brothers and sisters because we know each other to
Mhm.
like our deep down core. And that to me was just like such a beautiful thing, because like now I apply those questions or everything like that to every relationship that whether it's a friendship, romantic relationship, or family, even to like, hey,
Mhm.
like I want to get to know you guys now. And
Right.
that's what my favorite part was just being able to dive deep into someone and for who they are and not the surface level.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're saying that you left with a notion or you were asking the questions that you thought this is who would determine in a way the love of my life, like from a high level, what were some of those points that you really consider in your forever after? What are some of those
Like
qualities?
okay, so qualities for me, like values was family. Family has utmost importance,
Yeah.
and to me that like honestly, that's pretty much the main, like, not because like I'm saying that you need to be able to, like, I'm obsessed with my family. It's like, no, we're going to create a family together. And it's almost like
Yeah.
this team environment, right? Is that if we're going to create this together, we can't just be like, whatever you want to do, what I want to do. It's selflessly working together for a common goal to be able to create that kind of stability for our own family,
Mhm.
and that to me is very, very important. That's like the number one thing. If someone isn't close with their own family, I'm like, well, how are you going to be close with me and our family, you know?
True.
And I could be wrong. That could be that, but that's just the way in
That's
my
your
opinion, how,
preference. Right.
yeah, that's my preference, and that's just what I see, because more often than not in the relationships I've been in the past, when someone wasn't close with their family, there was always this like weirdness of like, hey, I got to go do this thing with my family, or I got to go do this for my family, like, and they're like, why, and I'm like, what do you mean why? Like
Right.
that's my people. What do you mean? That's why, And so that the values, like that's the number one thing that I was looking for, is like someone that was like family oriented, and not necessarily had to be like uber like, obsessed with me, but like something like loyalty and trust that goes like
Mhm.
I think hand in hand, like someone that can communicate. And once we have those communication skills like that show really brought that out of like, what do I value most? And communication is like right up there with just the
Right.
family side. Like
Nice.
not yeah, not saying like, oh, communicate your feelings at all times. Like, hey, sometimes I'm like, look, leave me alone. Don't talk to me. But like being able to express yourself and say like, hey,
Yeah,
like it upsets me when this happens in a healthy way, but like, why don't we work on this? And I'm like, I'm all about that. If you come at me like that, I'm like, let's do it.
it works. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. So
for
then what
sure.
did you like the least about the whole experience?
I mean, it's hard to say the least because it's a lot of I look at that as more like what do you regret the most? Or like for me,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
loved everything about it because even though it didn't work out at 26 years old now, it was like an emotional boot camp that like I feel like I fast forwarded my life by like 10 years,
Yeah.
mentally, like an emotional intelligence level. And I'm like more aware of things. I'm like energy and like communicating and all this things. So
Mm-hmm.
like to me, it's not that I hated anything. I mean, it's just more so of like, I had so many things that just impacted me so much. And like,
Right.
I honestly, the whole experience, if I do it the same way, I do it the exact same way again.
I love that. Okay. Yes. This sounds like it was such a positive experience, which I love to hear. I love to hear.
Well, I think if we sit down and like if I'm always like, oh, this happened to me. No, it's like this
Mm-hmm.
happened for me. This happened
Exactly.
for me when I do find that right person for me. I'm like, hey, like I learned this from this, and like you get me now. Like it's not this like confused kid or guy that's growing up or in that stage that maybe I wouldn't have learned these things at age 29 or 30. Now I'm
Mhm.
26 years old and I know these things about communication and moving forward and like really setting that tone in a relationship you know
Right, right. I love it. So, I mean, I guess before we get into the relationship that we've come to know you for, the relationship and Love and Just Blind with Jessica, was there anyone else that you connected with in the pods that we probably just didn't see, or was it always, what, she's the one?
I it was always Jess was it was that initial attraction, right? We were both from
Mm,
Chicago and that wasn't just what we connected over. We talked about everything. We knew
yeah.
everything about each other and from our jobs to our dogs to like our family, like we knew everything about each other. And so I don't I think I tried to connect with other folks, but they ended up turning into like my last three, my top three were Amber, Diamond, and Jess. Those were my final three that were like made
Hmm.
it to the end. And I was helping literally I was helping Amber with Barnett, and then I was helping Diamond with Carlton. So I'm like, there was nothing that like were as strong as what I had with Jess. So did
Hmm.
I try to? I definitely made connections in terms of friendships. Like those girls are like my sisters, but
Yeah.
romantically, not. It was pretty much Jess the whole time.
Okay. Okay. So I would say though, and I think it was the big anchor of your relationship is the fact that your age came up a lot in your relationship with Jess. So at
Yeah.
the time you were 24, as you mentioned, she was 34. Do you generally date older women?
Um, what's funny? Probably like a couple years older is what I would
Yeah.
like say, like 2 to 3, maybe like that would be like my track record of like if I dated somebody or the same age,
Right.
but never 10 years older. And
Hmm.
for myself, from what I learned and after reflecting on this whole thing, is that like at age 24 and 34, who she was, established woman, very hardworking, like we're just two different worlds,
Yeah.
and it's
Hmm.
not that I got to know her for who she was personally, but that's the whole experiment is can you last in the real world? And
Yeah.
she's aside from everybody, going after her and all these things, it's like I think people should cut her some slack because it's like these are two different worlds trying to make it work. Like I'm in my 20s, she's in her 30s. Like
Right.
it's two different sets of goals. Like me, I was figuring myself out at that time, and she, already is like, hey, like I'm good. Like what's
This is
going
where I'm
on? And
at.
so
Right.
yeah, and so this unspoken disconnection, right? It's like
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
this, like we probably were just trying to pinpoint it, but deep down, it was really just like two different worlds trying to coexist that really had
Okay.
no business working together. Now, emotionally, I think we would have worked out, like personally, whatever.
Right.
But I think deep down, that age gap was just too much to overcome.
It was a yeah, yeah. I can understand that. Would you say that you overall were probably too young for the experience or for marriage, or were you, to folks who say that, or would you say that what? Actually, no, I was ready and I was, ready to make this
I
happen.
don't think I don't think it was for I don't think I was too young for the experience
Hmm.
on the show. I think it was just the person I was with. And then, again,
Right.
it's not against her. It's not against, it's just the situation. And like, we've tried to make it work and it didn't work, you know, and I fought for it. And I made a promise to myself that I'd give it my best shot. And if it didn't work, at least I don't have any regrets. Right. And so for me, that I don't think I was too young. I think had it been maybe somebody in the similar mindset, like where I wasn't at that point in life, maybe it would have worked, maybe it wouldn't have. But you know, I know for me and Jess, I think it was just two different points in life.
Yeah, I get that. I also read somewhere that you and Jessica didn't actually live together. Is that true?
Well, I mean, I had first, so when we being both from Atlanta, you know, her house was actually like down the street from where we were. It was probably like 10 minutes away. So there would be times like we stayed together, and then sometimes we didn't. You know, in the beginning, and early on when we first moved to Atlanta, or got to that apartment, she would stay at her place because she had to travel or something. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna stay here regardless. But towards the end, like the last week before our wedding day, we stayed there together like pretty much every day.
All the time. Okay.
So it was like it was like a little like mix.
Little half and half.
yeah, a little half and half.
Okay. I did remember at one point, I think honestly all the viewers thought this was the cutest thing, the most romantic thing that you did, which is kind of recreate that moment that you all had in the pods for dinner. What made you decide to do that? And are you generally that romantic in your relationships?
I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but like, no, you know what's funny? I actually walked up to the producer, that was our like main producer for like our group, and I was like, I want to do this. I think that we should try to, because I was like trying to brainstorm of like getting back to who we were, because there was a huge disconnect from the end of Mexico to like the beginning of Atlanta, and like trying to get it all together. So I said, look, we need to stop right now. This is what I want to do. She comes home from her business trip, and I want to try it. At least I know that, again, it goes back to like, at least I pulled out all the stops to try it. You know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And we connected more so when I tried that than, you know, again, than what was working in the past. So I'm all about trying to find solutions to problems. And I was just like, let's take a chance. And I've always been a bit of, like I said, the hopeless romantic. And so I was like, why not? Rose petals, we'll add some wine, and like, you know, I had a little bit of help setting it up, but that was all me. That idea was all me.
Love it. I mean, literally, I'm a hopeless romantic as well, so I was definitely like, oh my god, this is the best. But that's great. I would say a big thing too was just watching the show. Besides the age, is seeing how torn Jessica was between you and Barnett. Did you ever have a sense of that, like throughout your engagement, that potentially her eyes are somewhere else?
I had like a gut feeling that, like, you know, you try to figure out what it is, right? Because I don't think, to me personally, I don't think it was the height thing. Like, I'm five. I'm not 5'4". Like everybody thinks I'm 5'4". Look, I'm actually tall. All the other guys are just 6'4", and I'm 5'10". You know what I mean? So for me, I was like, it's not that. The age gap, she knew that before she said yes. She knew how old I was. Then on top of that too, she knew what I did for a living. She knew everything about me. And so I think deep down, it was just like, there was something more than that. I couldn't. So in my heart, my gut, I was like, what if there's someone else? But, you know, Barnett was my roommate at a certain point. And so we had actually talked about it, and we were good. I didn't even know that was still a thing until once we watched it with everybody. Like, we watched it at the same time that everybody else got to see it. So we didn't get to see an early preview, nothing. So when that happened, me and Barnett were texting like, yo, what the hell? Because we were cool. We didn't even think anything of it. And even, I didn't think it was that bigger of an issue then, but, you know, I didn't know that was the thing until like later on.
That is crazy. Oh my gosh. Wow. And so did you reach out to, and you didn't reach out to her before the reunion? I think during the reunion, it mentioned that was the first time.
So she had called, so the day before the show came out, she called me. Like, we didn't talk for a year and a half. Like, the whole time the show wasn't airing, we didn't talk. So she called me the day before and apologized for whatever. And then we talked for a couple minutes, and then that was that. And then I didn't talk to her again until the reunion happened. And then once the reunion happened, that's where we kind of squashed everything that had gone down and like really communicated. And like, we did a couple interviews together, and I told her, I was like, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. And so we're not like best friends, but we're like, hey, like, we went through an experience together, and never gonna forget it.
Yeah.
This is something that's like it happens like lightning in a bottle, and so that's something you go through with somebody. And oh, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry, there we go. Sorry, it's something that goes like lightning in a bottle, and then like it just happens.
Yeah. Probably the biggest question is really, why didn't you leave? Like, why, when you realized or started to realize Jessica's doubts in you as a partner, didn't you just decide to, I'm going to end things?
Well, for myself, and I'll say this, like I haven't typically growing up, I didn't necessarily see the best relationships, right? Like whether it was family members or whatever. And so for me, learning from other people's mistakes, I didn't want to be the guy that like an engagement. I took it seriously. Like I don't want to just bail when things get hard. If things, I'm like, I would rather like, because I knew what we had emotionally, and so I would rather go up down on my sword of like everything. I tried everything. Then imagine when we're married and then we get into an argument or something happen, which is gonna happen. Like, and then I'd be like, you know what? I'm out. I'll just walk out. Like, and then just quit. Like, I'm not a quitter like that. I don't do things like that. So I wanted to exhaust every option and like try to make it work. And I think in that, what it taught me was just being resilient in a relationship and standing my ground. And which I think probably any other situation, if I was like, all right, peace. But because I took engagement so serious that I was like, no, we're gonna try to fight through it.
I get that. Okay. Is there anything you wish you or Jessica may have done differently?
Honestly, like I said, hindsight's 2020. I think everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And if I say like, hey, like I could have said this, or you could have said that, like sure now, but everything happened the way it was supposed to, and we're both in like better places now for it.
Yeah. Okay. So then real quick, take us to the day of the wedding. Your feelings, any inkling that you thought Jessica may have said no or say no at that point, just what happened that day? What was going through your mind?
I mean, I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, woof. Like, I mean, I felt I was more nervous. I probably second most nervous I've ever been. First nervous was right before the reveal, right when the thing opened up, the doors opened up, and I saw her, because I was like, "Ooh, Mark, don't lock out your legs!" Like, so like going up there and like your whole family staring at you, I was like, "Holy cow, this is like insane!" But the whole day, I was just really just, hey, I'm gonna stick to my truth. I'm gonna stick to like what I feel, what I believe, like what I feel about this woman, because if I do anything different, it's just not going to feel authentic to me. And I made a promise to myself that I was just going to be authentic. And so when I saw her walk down the aisle in a dress, she had told me she wasn't going to wear a dress. And so when I saw her walk down the aisle in a dress, I was like, well, I mean, it's, you're that 24-year-old kid that gets caught up in the moment,
Love it. Well, as you have seen now, season 2 is officially in the works. Casting is underway. For those who are in Chicago, I know you're native Chicago, but what folks who want to get this opportunity, what advice would you have for them? And, what kind of things should they look forward to?
I think, so things to watch out. I think folks should, it's really cheesy to say, be yourself, right? It's like, you have some time to work on yourself before you get on this. Like deep down, like we didn't know what we were in for. We just went into it and just did it, right? What I would say for anyone going into it with like, really write down what you want in a relationship. What is your compliment in a partner? What are your love languages? What are things like that you're like, this is serious. It's real. It's not something that like should be taken lightly. It's not something, because the people that took it lightly, whether it worked out or not, it's like we all made it to Mexico because we were all invested in the process. Even if it was, messy or not, whatever our situation was, it's like we were all invested in the process. And so anybody that's going to go do this, like take the time now to really like emphasize what you want or need in a partner and just go with it. Because don't be saying like, I'm going to find a person no matter what, because you're going to force something that isn't going to work. So just really take the time, write down those things, like who you are, because that's when you change yourself, that's when you can really kind of, show that to someone else and be like, I want to be with that, as opposed to looking for someone to complete you. You see what I mean?
True.
So that's like, you have to be okay with yourself. And so once you get into it, looking forward to things is look forward to just finding something within yourself that you didn't know you had. All of us, when we were in these interviews, every single person on this show cried. I don't care who they are, who they said. Like, you ask anybody that, whatever point they were in this show, it's like we all cried because we opened up in a way that we had never, some of us had never opened up to before. And then when we walked out, we were just like, this is like therapeutic. So it made us form this bond together, which is why all of us are still relatively close, you know, whether we hang out together or not. But it's like, when we're together, we're like, we went through this together, you know? So be prepared to just let all those walls down, because I don't care if you're the toughest person in the world, you're going to break this mentally and emotionally. It's going to hit you harder than a bag of bricks. I promise.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, speaking of casting, do you see yourself probably going back to reality TV in any capacity? Any shows that you would potentially say, listen, look out for me, I'm coming?
I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea. I mean, if I went on Love Is Blind season 2, I don't think that'd be like, everyone would know, like, oh, wait, what's your name? Mark? Wait, what? So I don't know if that really worked, but like, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to it. You know, for me, that experience was awesome. So I just know that every experience that I do moving forward, whether it's reality TV or not, it's like, I'm just gonna be myself. And so to me, that's all I can hope for. And I wouldn't be against it.
Truth. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be on the lookout.
Be on the lookout. We'll see.
I know that this show happened so long, or was taped so long ago. So tell us very briefly, what kind of stuff have you been up to lately?
So, I mean, since the quarantine happened, it was pretty crazy. I started doing Instagram live workout. I'm still a group fitness instructor. That, to be honest, like, I think a lot of folks don't really know what that means. You know, a lot of people think that it's like this like guy on a mic that's just like doing these like workouts.
Break it
like,
down
whatever.
for the people, Mark. Break it down.
And I'm like, no, it's like, it goes so much deeper than that, right? What I do is when I get into these rooms, it's when I'm coaching, it's like I get into this state of flow of like, I have 55 minutes to change someone's day. That's how I do it every single time. And so it's a craft. And like anything, I got better and better and better. And now I've been doing that with doing Instagram lives, and like now I'm starting a YouTube channel. So doing things like that. And so I want to be able to help as many people as I can, whether it's health, fitness, wealth, like any kind of wellness. So that's really what I've been up to. And hanging out with some friends, some friends that I can hang out with.
Right.
Here, right. The ones that have been like together, like, okay, you're staying kind of like isolated, I'm staying isolated. So I've been just, you know, I'm really focused on being a better man, brother, like whether that's financially, reading books, whether that's, you know, reading more or meditating more, writing down my goals and everything. So this whole process post show has really taught me, especially quarantine, because I'm really glad I hate that it happened, but I'm glad it happened because it really showed me like the things that I need to work on to have that discipline. So I've been working on myself, basically to answer, working on myself. Fitness is still my thing and still trying to help as many people as I can. And yeah, just been trying to move the needle as much as I can.
I love that. That's literally growth. Or actually, you can share if you are dating anyone post Love Is Blind. Let's hear about it.
You know, I'm just being me. I'm just being me. You know, I can't. You know, I'm just doing my thing. You know, a gentleman never kisses and tells. That's what they say.
I feel it.
No, it's, you know, like I said, I think the biggest thing that I could do for anyone that I decide to date is initially like work on myself. And I've been just so headstrong on that. And like all my best friends, we've come together and we're like, all right, what do we need to learn financially? What do we need to learn this? And so that is my inner circle. I'm like, I need to level up my mentality first, in my opinion, before I can give someone the life that I want to give them, or together. We work together to do that. You know what I mean? And so that's what I look for, because Love Is Blind taught me so much of the seriousness of a relationship that is the building blocks, the foundation into getting to that next level. So I want to make sure that I can give someone something emotionally, you know, mentally, financially, like a true man, as opposed to what I was before, where I was figuring it out, you know?
Yeah.
Which is still not bad. It's just, I know what I'm capable of and what I want to do, you know? And so that's why I'm kind of taking my time with the dating world right now. And
Yeah,
trusting
you're
people.
leveling up, period. You're leveling up. And I love to hear it. That's amazing.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, this was so great, Mark. It was great talking to you. Great getting more insights on your experience, on what you've been up to lately. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, real quick.
Seriously, it's always a pleasure. Yeah.
Yes, always a pleasure. Obviously, you know exactly where to find him, but if you want to give your socials real quick, we can share that as well.
Yeah, so it's so my Instagram is Mark Anthony Cuevas with a 1_. Twitter's the same thing. Everything's pretty much the same thing. TikTok is the same thing. I made sure like everybody can find me on the same one.
Yes.
The YouTube channel, my first episode will be up this upcoming Monday, the 22nd. I think that's the date.
Ooh.
So that I'll be answering. Oh there we go. My battery life. There we go. So like, I'll be answering questions from Love is Blind, quarantine, and anything fitness related. I did like an inquiry today for like anybody that follows me. So stay tuned for that on my YouTube channel. I'll post about it on all the socials. And so, yeah, just trying to stay busy now.
Nice. Okay, we are looking forward to that. All right, next week we're ready. And to everyone, my social at Akilah Ffriend. That's AKILAH 2Fs FFRIEND. Thank you so much for joining us. And catch us next week, same time, same place, where we'll talk about all things Love is Blind lately.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.